Funding for NJ Spotlight News provided by the members of the New Jersey Education Association and RWJ Barnabas Health. Learn more at rwjbh.org. From NJ PBS Studios, this is NJ Spotlight News with Brianna Venozzi.
Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Brianna Venozzi. On this edition of NJ Spotlight News, we take a look at a range of issues that are impacting residents in our state and nation. Take a look. A new approach to healthcare in the state is bringing treatment beyond the walls of a hospital and right into patients' homes. Virtua Health is now the first system in the state to operate a mobile integrated health program, deploying paramedics and EMTs to provide non-emergency care and manage chronic conditions, among other things. The goal is to catch problems earlier and reduce unnecessary trips to the emergency department. Joining me now to discuss how the program works and who it's designed to help is James Newman. He's the Vice President of Patient Logistics at Virtua Health. James, welcome. Thanks for coming on. So what exactly is MIH? How does it work day to day?
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. And we're pleased to be the first healthcare system in New Jersey to be licensed to provide mobile integrated health. And it's really an innovative program that sends specially trained paramedics and EMTs in the patient's home to provide high-level non-emergency care, typically following an inpatient stay or an ED visit, or in conjunction with a primary care or specialty care physician. So we provide focused in-home assessment, treatment under physician direction, structured follow-up, and even access to care coordination and navigation. It's really designed to identify issues early, keep patients on track after a hospital stay or an emergency visit.
So what kind of patient then would receive a visit? Can you give us like an on-the-ground example?
Yeah, absolutely. So broadly, any condition that places a patient at risk for hospitalization or rehospitalization after a visit is a candidate for this program. Some common examples include COPD patients or congestive heart failure, heart disease, pneumonia. MIH is really especially helpful during high risk or difficult transitions to home. And really, as we think about that, congestive heart failure patients, they may experience after their home a change in symptoms that becomes concerning, but not emergent. Retaining additional fluid, experiencing vital sign changes, or even mild shortness of breath. Mobile integrated health has the ability to come into the home, assess the patient under a physician's orders, administer IV diuretics, or coordinate in real time with the physician to adjust in-home medications, potentially schedule added visits. This often presents unnecessary ER visits or rehospitalization.
So how does a patient get into the program? Is that something that the hospital is coordinating and saying, this is a patient that needs to be in this? How quickly do they get seen?
So any patient, any Virtua patient may participate in the program. It's a referral-based program from a Virtua physician or a care provider. And the physician will determine both the appropriateness of being entered into the program, the care that is necessary post-hospitalization, as well as the timing. So we can do visits in as short as an hour, 1 to 2 days, if that's what a provider requests, or even within 48 hours. And then, following that, based on the initial visit, working in conjunction with our physicians, we'll really determine if a single visit is adequate, or if a patient needs continuous visits, or to be connected with our overall care at home model.
As I understand it, this operation is going to run around the clock across South Jersey. What's the need as far as you know, and do you have the capacity to meet that? Or are you going to have to scale up at some point?
So yes, we do intend to run the program 24/7, and that's intentional. You know, we've talked about these visits that are really scheduled by providers. We also intend to provide services on demand to really fill that void between provider and emergency department, even in the off hours. And you know, we have a strong workforce development program at Virtua. We continue to build out our workforce and train our workforce. So yes, the program will be scaled to meet the need. And you know, we have we're here for good at Virtua, and we have a commitment to continue to grow this program and be committed to our patients.
What are you hearing, or what have you heard from patients about the gap that this would fill, or the need for it? You know, the fact that maybe they don't have to go into a hospital and have that whole, wait and the process that it is.
So at Virtua, we've been committed to growing our care at home strategy for a few years now. Patient satisfaction has grown as a result of that. You know, patients want to be treated in their home where they're comfortable, where they're happier and they're around family members. We know that this program will reduce barriers to care, such as transportation challenges or difficulty following care plans. So we're excited about that. We know our patients are excited about it, and the feedback's really been phenomenal.
If folks are looking for more information or to get maybe a family member enrolled, where can they find that?
I would direct individuals to our website, as well as to connect with their Virtua physicians for more information about the program.
All right, James Newman with Virtua Health. Thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We'll check back with you, obviously, as the program gets up and running fully.
Great, we appreciate it.
Tonight, a deeper look at how a wounded construction worker became a relentless champion of 9/11 responders. John Field rushed to Ground Zero on September 11th, and that act changed his life forever. After suffering a devastating injury days later at the site, he went on to become a leading voice in the fight for responders' health care and compensation on Capitol Hill. Now, as we look ahead to the 25th anniversary of the attack, Field is sharing that journey and the stories of those who stood beside him in a new book titled, "I Will Follow You Anywhere." He'll also be speaking May 7th at the National September 11 Memorial and Museum alongside fellow advocates who have testified before Congress. John Field joins us now. John, it is so good to have you back on the show, as it always is. As I noted at the top, this year will mark the 25th anniversary. What do you remember most vividly about the moment you decided to go to Ground Zero, and how did that change the course of your life?
Well, one, thank you for having me again, and I'm humbled to be here. I'm humbled to be alive. I look back and I don't really reminisce, and with therapy and the help of a lot of therapy over the years, I can block out what I did at Ground Zero for 5.5 days before my injury. But if I close my eyes, I can smell the carnage, the death, the destruction. Probably why I don't sleep a lot. But it's definitely the smell that is always going to haunt me. What I saw, I choose to remember the good. I remember the humanity in people. I remember uniform, non-uniform coming together, man, woman, black, white. Didn't matter. It was all about humanity. There was no titles. We were all human beings. And we all gave of ourselves. Some gave more than others. For those that died that horrific Tuesday morning, my heart bleeds for their families, because this is a wound that hasn't closed. And for those that didn't lose someone and are still suffering from their illnesses, that's why I fight, and it's why I advocate. It's why I do this 24/7.
How did you, though, John, transform? I mean, you were a construction supervisor. You had this traumatizing injury, an 8,000-pound piece of steel. How did you transform from that and from doing that work into an activist who has taken on Congress and won?
Yeah, I don't want to cliche it, but I don't think no one knows what they're capable of until they have to. I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now. And this wasn't on my bingo card in 2001 and 2. Technically, it's still not on my bingo card because sometimes I'm in shock and awe of looking back over the last 25 years that I've been able to help a lot of people. And I think what I'm going to remember most is the friendships and the bridges that were formed, so people that are flawed and vulnerable like me can collaborate and move forward together and ensure that the masses get the help they get. That's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
It was our story to tell. And over the years, so many people wrote books, like Jon Stewart. There's a whole chapter of me in Jon's book. Senator Gillibrand, there's a whole chapter of me in her book. Dr. Love from the Stony Brook World Trade Center Health Program wrote a book. There's a whole chapter in there on me. And I wanted to tell about not Jon Stewart and John Field, but I wanted to tell about 12, 13, 14 people who were heroes before they ever met me. And what they did at Ground Zero and how they got sick and how they joined me in D.C. and how they joined Team David to fight Goliath. And we didn't win just once. You know, we passed 7 bills in Congress and 20 altogether in Albany, New Jersey, Michigan. And while they coined it guerrilla lobbying, I call it humanity. I call it challenging their humanity to do what's right. You know, when we don't value human life, then we fail. And I failed at a lot of things in life, but I'm never going to fail at valuing human life.
Yeah, you made it a point in the book to make sure that the story is told through the lens of those other responders. But, I mean, you made hundreds, almost 500 trips to Washington alongside, your brothers and sisters in advocacy there. But it took nearly a decade for the James Zadroga Act to be signed into law. And even now, there are issues with the World Trade Center Health Program. I know you were scheduled to have a meeting with HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about staffing cuts, about funding and funding research delays. What does that say to you about how this issue is still being handled 25 years later? And can you give us an update on whether or not you still plan to speak with him?
Oh, yeah, we definitely plan on speaking with him. It's just a matter of everybody's schedule because there's more than just me and him. Go back a little over a year ago when Elon Musk cut everything and then Kennedy started cutting NIOSH, who administrates the World Trade Center Health Program. You know, the original bill in 2010 calls for 120 people to be staff to oversee the World Trade Center Health Program. We never made it to 120 people. But the program was doing its job and it was running efficient. Right now, there's 83 people working for NIOSH that oversee the enrollment and the certification of illnesses at the World Trade Center Health Program. It's come to a complete halt, and getting these people into the program is literally an Olympic event right now. But we're working diligently to fix that, to ensure that Kennedy does the right thing. But it's not just the enrollment and the certification. It's getting the $20 million back a year for research for future illnesses. It's also putting heart, cardiac, cognitive, and autoimmune back on the table because they would have been voted on last year. And thousands of people would have been able to make amendments to their claim and get help from the health care that they deserve. So, if you go back after 9/11, nobody ever apologized. They said the air was safe to breathe, the water was safe to drink. Nobody apologized. Christy Todd Whitman tried, but it was weak at best. But what they did was create the World Trade Center Health Program. I was part of that. I helped create the World Trade Center Health Program. They consider me a founding father. That was their sorry. That was their apology. But they made us fight and still fight right now for over 2 decades for that apology. Yeah. They're literally putting a carrot at the end of the stick and we're chasing it, which is the World Trade Center Health Program. And, we always win. And I don't call a win like in the sense of a baseball game you won, because people suffer and die while we're in the process of fighting and advocating. And it's not a clean win. But they always have obstacles and hurdles in front of us. And, we used to have to sidestep and walk around them and say please and beg. We don't beg no more. We don't beg. We walk through these obstacles and hurdles now. Members of Congress work for the American people. And if you want to be an advocate or an activist, that's your number one thing to remember. They work for you. You don't have to go, yes, sir, you're a superstar, can I get a picture with you? Do your job, shut up, and do what's humanity.
Well, then let's leave it on that note, because your book is part memoir, part guidebook. What is one thing that folks can take from your book about what they can do when they feel helpless against large government systems? Is there one piece of advice you can leave with folks?
Show them that you have endurance and stamina. You know, at the end of each chapter in the book is the recipe, the playbook on how you can get involved and engage, whether it's at the local, state, federal level, if you want to get legislation passed. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. My IQ is around room temperature at best. And listen, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to get mad. But if somebody from Minnesota or Texas or anywhere across the country reaches out to me and says, I have this piece of legislation and I want to do this, then I'm going to help them. I'm going to help them and I'm going to get them involved, because the American people deserve better than what's happening right now. Take 9/11 out of the equation. This country's on fire. This country's on fire because two parties rather see each other lose than the American people win. And that's a shame. And last time I checked, we're all human beings. And again, going back to when we don't value human life, then we failed. We failed. I am never going to conform to what society dictates on how we treat each other. I want to have the difficult conversation. I want to understand why we don't agree on something, but I also want to embrace on what we agree on. And I think when we show each other we're vulnerable and flawed, and I think when we show each other when we're exposed, it allows us to come forward so we can collaborate and move forward together on projects like a book or getting legislation passed, or going to D.C. and making sure Congress or the Senate does the right thing.
John Fiel, thank you for coming on the show. The physical copies of the book will be out in the fall. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, for more than half a century, one man has been at the heartbeat of one of Newark's most remarkable success stories. Father Edwin Leahy, known to generations of students simply as Father Ed, is the longest-serving headmaster of St. Benedict's Preparatory School, leading its rebirth after closure and helping turn it into a nationally recognized model for urban education. Now, a new book is preparing for release that'll examine the hardship, hope, and hard-earned lessons behind St. Benedict's. Father Ed joins me now to talk about leadership and what it means to shape lives across generations. Father Ed, it's so good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I've read so much about you over the years. I've seen you in the press over the years. I wonder what it means to you when someone says over half a century of leading this school. That number, what does it mean to you emotionally, not just professionally?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because when I applied to St. Benedict's as an 8th grader, I got rejected.
You, as the headmaster for over half a century, couldn't get into the school.
I didn't get in, and I was a poor test taker, and back then the whole thing relied on tests, and so I never got in. So the kind of the joke was that some of the people probably who rejected me wound up working for me eventually, right? So so in that sense, when I get a chance to reflect on it, I say to myself, how the heck it's obviously, for me at least, from my perspective, it's God that created this opportunity. But when you're doing it, you don't think about that 53 years. You just think about today, just one day at a time. So. But the real thing for me is the fact that I didn't get in. Where would I be had my father not written a letter? I was already accepted at another school. Why didn't he say go there? But he wrote a letter to get me into St. Benedict's. So. And
now you've been a constant. Another constant is that the daily convocation, that is sort of at the soul of the school. Why has that ritual been essential to you to keep going? And what do you think it gives kids that they don't get in the classroom?
Yeah, well, one of the things that it creates is community. What's largely been destroyed in this country is a sense of community, a sense of togetherness, a sense of common purpose, and being able to sacrifice for the sake of others. And if you want to create a community, it's important that the community see itself. So meeting every day with all of us is essential. It's the most important thing we do. There's no question in my mind, more important than the academics, more important than anything. The most important thing we do is meet together every single day, and we can deal with whatever problems are going on at the time.
Is that a big part of it, dealing with the personal problems that kids bring in?
Or the communal problems, right? The communal problems that we all get afflicted with, right? And and then we obviously pray together, we sing together, and so announcements. There's no loudspeakers. So voices coming out of the wall, talking to you all day. I have no interest in that. We didn't want to do that.
So how do you do it? How do you get announcements out in the morning? You know, this schedule is.
Do them at the morning meeting. And now it's much easier. Back when we started, it was harder. You could put them on. We have plasma screens all over, so you could put the announcements there. But it's not uncommon if there's a problem that occurs during the day for the student who's the senior group leader to say, I want everybody at convocation after school. So the whole school will come back on the word of an 18-year-old senior.
So that's still really important to you, to let these kids lead, these students lead. It's sort of a simple philosophy, but not, right? I mean, you're big on, as I understand it, don't do for kids what they can do for themselves.
Don't do for kids what they can do for themselves. Absolutely true. And it's important for us to be able to give these kids, both the young guys and girls, voice, right? Because our guys who come either from the African dispersion or Latin America don't think their voice matters. And the girls, I don't have to tell you about women's voice in the country, right? Being muted. So making sure that they can be responsible for the day-to-day and that their voice is heard and matters is important. But you have to do it in the everyday. You can't just do it once in a while. Have a week, a women's week. That's all important. But it's got to be a women's day or a African American and Latino day every day for our kids.
How do you sort of protect what I would imagine is a very sacred, intimate thing for you, while also letting it become a blueprint or a model for schools around the country? Well,
that's the problem. The challenge was after we appeared on 60 Minutes 10 years ago now, we were talking about that earlier, I was told when they were doing the piece, if it got on TV, be prepared because you'll get phone calls everywhere from Washington, D.C.
And did you?
To Oklahoma trailer parks. Absolutely, we're swamped. So we actually created an institute named after one of the monks who at our place who created the group system and the leadership structure so that we could respond to people. We've had people in from all over the world. And we've been in contact with people in India, all over South America. It's been stunning. So it's not ours to protect, it's ours to share. When we started at Christmas time in 1972, when the school was closed, we had a plan. We worked for weeks. We came up with a plan. We were going to have a school from grade 9 to grade 12, just boys, of 120 students.
And you're at what now?
1,000. Well, between 1,000 and 1,100. From kindergarten, 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds.
Right.
So the plan is I had we do some work with the special operations people in our military, and they'll tell you that every plan is perfect until the first shot's fired, and then you got to adjust.
Right.
So we had no plans for any of the things that we're doing, but it got people forced us to think in a different way and to do it differently.
Is that what keeps you going? You recently, we should say happy birthday, in December, celebrated your 80th birthday, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
Is that what keeps you going? Is that what keeps you driving forward and looking to move the school forward, knowing that there are lots of other lives that you can touch?
Yeah, and to know that the challenges now are not the same as the challenges 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So life is always new, and being able to respond to the people that are in front of you at that time is I think what's important. So the challenges we deal with now because of the telephone, and nobody who hangs out on the street corner now, as an example. When we were growing up, people hung out in the street corners. Now, nobody hangs out on the street corner. The kids all hang out on the phone. And it's dangerous. It's really dangerous. Way more dangerous than a street corner was.
Yeah.
So there's a different set of problems.
Father Ed Leahy, thank you so much for coming in. We wish you lots of years of
Thanks.
continued success.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for your work. We appreciate it. It's important at this point.
That's going to do it for us. I'm Brianna Venozzi. For the entire NJ Spotlight News team, thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time.
NJM Insurance Group, serving the insurance needs of residents and businesses for more than 100 years.